Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites of YouTube, Facebook, and X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. We're glad you are with us today. We have a provocative and interesting topic today, and as you can see in the title of this program, are you studious or are you curious? Okay, this is a virtue and a vice that you may not have heard of. Of course, you're familiar with curiosity and studiousness, but did you know those were a vice and a virtue? And did you know, furthermore, what St. Thomas Aquinas says about them? And I was on CDT this morning with Adrian and Rudy and got a lot more reaction to that conversation than I typically get. So I think you're going to find this interesting. And I want you to be easy on yourself because I think St. Thomas Aquinas' standard is really setting the bar high for the way we conduct ourselves as far as, you know, what we desire to know and what we read and what we're interested in. And you can see on some levels it almost seems a little bit scrupulous, but we will discuss all that. And I want to, with no further ado, welcome my two cohorts here in studio and across the glass. Cecil Anderson, producing the program.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes, you are. Welcome back. How was your retreat?
It was very good.
I asked that like it's the first time I've asked you.
Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about it at all. Yeah, no. It was very nice to get a little bit of respite and just rest a little bit. Allergies got me while I was on the retreat, so I was joking with everyone. I was carrying my emotional support tissue box with me everywhere. You never knew if I was emotional because of the retreat or if I was crying because of allergies. So,
that's right. So you had an automatic out.
I did.
I'm not getting emotional.
I'm not cry. I got allergies,
That's
guys.
like when I went to the Mass to drop off my daughter at Benedictine, and I started, tears were falling down my eye, and I was like, it's just allergies, okay? I'm not sentimental about dropping my daughter
You're like
off
these
at college.
Kansas allergies.
Yeah, Kansas. What's going on with all these allergies? As they're talking about, leaving your daughter and your son at school. I mean, allergies were just really acting up. And so also you might see on the screen, James Jacoby is our new intern, and he's interning this semester for college credit. And so he will be training with Cecil on how to run the board. And in the future, he might be running the board. And Cecil may be here in the studio with us. And then we also, of course, have our trusty homeschool, brilliant young man, William Kirkendall, with us as well. William, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
And William told me before the show started that he is developing a love for philosophy, and it's been going on for a while now, huh?
Yeah, about a year, if not maybe a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've said many times, if anybody threw me into a position that you're in right now when I was your age, I don't know what I would have done. I would have just stared at the wall and hoped that nobody ever came to me and asked me any questions. All right, I would not have been able to carry myself in a quarter of the way you do. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's get right to it. And last week, Cecil, I know you were out. Adrian was at the helm, and we got into a pretty deep conversation. It wasn't very structured.
See, that's why when I'm here, we don't allow that.
You. You simplify things a little bit, right?
I am a simple person.
Hey, but that's God's
things.
first attribute.
See?
Okay, so you're godly. God is simple,
Thank
right?
you.
Not simple-minded, just simple, right? That's a good thing. And so this one's going to be a little more structured, and I've got some trivia at the end of the program, which is going to be rapid fire, and it's not difficult. Remember a couple weeks ago when I had that really hard one, and you guys were just like,
that was
just,
like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah,
that was not good. that like ruined everybody's weekend. So anyways, and if you are out there and you want to comment and let us know where you are, I see Nancy, I think, is out there. So thank you for watching, Nancy. And anybody that joins us, you can comment, and Cecil will keep track of those comments. So, all right, so I've got a graphic here that we can put up on the screen of 4 people. And you got to ask yourself, are these people exercising the virtue of studiousness or the vice of curiosity? And what is the difference? Okay, so I think we've all at times perhaps been studious. And so what comes to your mind when you think of studiousness? I mean,
not me. No, I always picture, honestly, what comes to my mind about studious is I always picture my sister, because she was a very good student, like a very, very good student. So I always picture her just kind of, especially in her high school days, she's always got her nose in a book. She was always studying very thoroughly. So I just picture her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think anybody would ever consider studiousness to be like an insult. If somebody said, "Oh, William is studious." Now, curiosity, on the other hand, I think could go either way.
It could,
if somebody said, William is just a curious guy, he might think, I don't know if they're complimenting me or insulting me, right? Or like, Curious George, who was just, that old, that actually wasn't a person, a little fake monkey. But, I think most people would think that curiosity is a virtue. My child is really curious about life and likes to explore things. And so in what way is curiosity actually a sin? Okay, and that's what Thomas Aquinas is going to get at. I think you're going to find this kind of interesting. And so let's go to the first slide here. And Thomas says whether the proper matter of studiousness is knowledge. Okay, he says, properly speaking, study denotes keen application of the mind to something. Okay, for the knowledge of truth, strictly speaking, is good, but it may be evil accidentally. Okay, so how is our pursuit of knowledge could be evil? All right, I'm going to give you 8 ways that Aquinas says that our pursuit of knowledge could turn sinful. And I'll ask you guys to try to guess some of these before we get to them, okay? The philosopher Aristotle says all men have a natural desire for knowledge. Now think about this. Aren't human beings the only creatures that seek knowledge? Okay. No.
I can flat out say no, because Curious George.
Wow, you were listening to the first part of the show, weren't you? Curious George.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's an interesting thing, because sometimes when people make these shows, they will like to give human characteristics to animals, right? Okay. So,
but are you talking about as far as animals? Are there animals that seek knowledge?
Even angels. Because angels are created with infused knowledge.
Right.
Right. Now, on the other hand, like an angel won't know what William is going to have for dinner tonight, right? They'd have to find out because they don't know the future.
Right.
So, but our angels I wonder what he's going to have for dinner tonight. Or I don't think they really care. I mean, they're not.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
But as far as facts about things and the knowledge that we have to gain little by little throughout our life, the angels have it infused into them at the moment they're created, right? So I think it would be accurate to say that we're the only creatures that seek knowledge.
I would agree, because like a dog is not gonna look for knowing something.
He doesn't want to know where the treat comes from. He just wants the treat.
Exactly. Exactly. I had, I do this a way a day for my students, and one of my Highland students that I'm teaching this year, she took a picture of her dog sitting on the back porch, kind of looking out into the trees and the sunset. And she brought up a very interesting question. She said, I was just wondering if the dog is wondering about, life. And I said, Thomas would say no, because wondering means you're trying to figure out the cause of it, and I just, we don't know the minds of dogs, but I don't think there's any indication that dogs are going that deep, right?
Right. I mean, it might look like they are just because they're looking into the distance, but their brains aren't probably processing anything.
Because if they're doing that, they'd probably be writing poetry, and drawing pictures.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, dog poetry, right?
And I don't know if I've never done deep research on this, but have you seen the videos of elephants painting flowers and stuff like that? So I'm like, is that just pure training?
Yeah, I don't know.
You're what is that coming from?
I think that's all kind of weird, or maybe it's, I don't know. To me, it's kind of like a Eucharistic miracle where it doesn't happen normally. But
so it's more
maybe
of a
God
miraculous
just
thing.
throws us a little curveball every now and then, and I'm going to have this animal do something really crazy.
Yeah.
And I've seen those, and I don't know. I'm not sure how legitimate those are or what. Yeah. But okay, so we know that knowledge is not bad. Human beings are the only ones that seek knowledge. The next slide says, so what studiousness is a virtue.
Right.
Okay, what cardinal virtue do you think studiousness falls under? There's only 4, prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude. So which of the 4 cardinal virtues do you think it falls under?
Maybe fortitude, or what was the other one I was thinking it might be? Did you have another one?
I was gonna agree with.
Oh, okay.
Fortitude. Yeah.
Fortitude, because I'm thinking you're like building up your knowledge in your brain.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's actually not right, but it's actually temperance.
Okay, that was going to be my second guess.
Because you think about it, there's like a spectrum of like, I can know this much, or like seek this much knowledge, or I could seek too little, and so so there's actually a sub virtue under temperance before you get to studiousness, and that's modesty. Okay, so you can be modest in the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you how much you laugh. So modesty is the virtue right above studiousness, and then above that is temperance. Okay, so it falls under temperance. Here's the explanation. He says it belongs to temperance to moderate the movement of the appetite, lest it tend excessively to that which is desired naturally. Now, just as in respect of his corporeal nature, man naturally desires the pleasures of food and sex, so in respect of his soul, he naturally desires to know something. Thus, the moderation of this desire pertains to the virtue of studiousness. Wherefore, it follows that studiousness is a potential part of temperance, as a subordinate virtue annexed to the principal virtue. Moreover, it is comprised under modesty for the reason given above. I love that. You have the four cardinal virtues, and if you read the second part of the Summa, you'll see all of the other virtues and vices that fall under those four main ones. And so every moral virtue falls under one of those four. Okay, so prudence is an intellectual virtue. But all right, so does that make sense? So now we go next slide. 8 ways seeking knowledge can lead to sin.
Dun, dun, dun,
okay,
dun.
so here we go. And some of these are really interesting. I'd love to get your thoughts on them. And those of you out there in social media land, let me know if you think Aquinas is just going way overboard, way too much. But I will say that there's a quote that is attributed to somebody talking about Thomas Aquinas. And they said when he wasn't speaking to God, he was speaking of God. Okay, so think about that. That's a high standard. Obviously you can't speak 100% of the time only about God. Hey, honey, what's for dinner? Mash. That's not about God. Because you said pot pie. So how can one do that? Either speak to God or about God. Okay, so that's kind of the standard. So any guesses about when knowledge, and James, feel free to jump in as well. You can give your answer to Sissel. When knowledge could be potentially sinful. Not knowledge, the pursuit of knowledge. Okay, any guesses?
So I was thinking earlier that when I heard this subject, I was thinking there can be times, I think, when, like, for instance, Eve, she ate of the fruit of all knowledge of good and evil, right?
Yeah.
And so that pursuit, that desire to be like God, I think this would be a rare person who is like, I want to learn so much so that I'm more powerful than God, because I think most of us recognize that that's not possible. But, and then, or like things like that. There's times when, like, I don't know. I don't even know if that counts as one.
This is gonna be under number 6.
Oh, okay.
So
at least I'm under something. Yay.
No, there's 8 of them, and you just nailed number 6.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so any other guesses?
I was gonna say something along the same lines, because I know at the beginning you talked about curiosity and how curiosity can be a bad thing. It's like when people get immersed in like the new age stuff and the necromancy and all that.
Oh yeah.
All that
Is
dark
that
stuff.
another one?
Okay, yes it is. That's number 4.
Well, then I guess knowledge.
And now these aren't ranked. It's not like 4 is better than 6.
There's like if you want to
Although
know.
William is better than you.
Okay, you know what? That's just because he doesn't win trivia. Just because I think gossip. If you want to know gossip, like you desire to know more about someone than you really should know, that's not really pertinent to your relationship, or
Right.
All right.
because someone says, "Oh, did you hear blah blah blah," and you should be like, "No."
Okay.
Stand back.
So that I think kind of falls under number 3.
Okay.
And I used this example on Kathy Drive Time this morning, and Adrian, the host, is 25, and I said a few years before Adrian was born and Sissel was born, there was this big trial of O.J. Simpson.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
So you're familiar with
I've
that.
heard about it.
It
Yes,
happened
yes.
long before you ever lived.
Right.
So O.J. Simpson was accused of killing his wife, and another gentleman who allegedly was having an affair with her, right? And the whole country, I say that with air quotes, some people, of course, didn't, but everybody was just totally wrapped up in this trial. And for months and months and months, everybody was talking about O.J. Simpson trial and the murder trial, and he was guilty or he was innocent. And then finally in 1995, the verdict came out and they found him not guilty, right? And some people were mad, some people weren't. But it was gruesome. I mean, because he stabbed his victims, and there was blood and pictures, and and that's an example of curiosity, And believe me, I fell for it. I mean, I was gripped by it.
A more recent one is like the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah, exactly,
Everyone was very like, have to know what's happening, what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like one of those things.
It's good-looking people. It's, has to do with, I mean.
I think sometimes it's an escapism because we're all like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with the actual problems in my own life. Let me look at someone else's.
How about Kyle Rittenhouse? Do you remember that trial?
Yes,
a couple of years ago. How about Brett Kavanaugh?
There's so many.
And there's these ones that, I mean, because really the O.J. Simpson trial, the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial has nothing to do with my life. Okay, so I think what Thomas is going to say is that's time you could have been praying. That's time you could have been in adoration. That's time you could have been with your kids. And so, anyways, I think most of us are to some degree or another guilty of a little bit of curiosity. So you guys got a few of them. Do you want to guess any more? Or some of them are really interesting. And
are they a little obscure or like it's not something we think of? Or do you think they're all that we could come to?
There's a quote from Augustine that Thomas quotes in the Summa that I really want your thoughts on, because I think in this particular one, Aquinas is going... and Augustine are going too far, but and then there's another one that's number 5. I think is very interesting as well, and very pertinent to a lot of people. Okay, so you want to get right into it?
I think we can jump in.
Okay, so this one, is number 1 is when one tends by his study to the knowledge of truth as having evil accidentally annexed to it. For instance, those who study to know the truth that they may take pride in their knowledge.
Oh, okay. I want to get a PhD so I can tell everyone I have a PhD.
Yeah, and I think this is very common. And I got to say, guilty as charged. Like, man, I read the Summa all the way through, and I've said before, like, I think even though I don't think I'm as intelligent as like PhDs, I think I can have a conversation with them, and I've said that many times. It's like it's pride, And so like, why am I getting knowledge?
Right.
I love this quote from Augustine. He said, this is pretty funny. Some there are who forsake virtue and ignorant of what God is, and of the majesty of that nature, whichever remains the same, imagine they are doing something great, if with surpassing curiosity and keenness they explore the whole mass of this body, which we call the world. So great a pride is thus begotten, that one would think they dwelt in the very heavens about which they argue. Isn't that great?
So sassy.
And this is coming from one of the most intelligent people that ever lived. I mean, Augustine clearly was bright.
He's self-aware, though.
Yeah. If there's a self-aware person in the world, but and if anybody has any comments out there, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just keep on moving with these. And okay, on to number 2, which I don't think this one. I was kind of surprised y'all didn't get this one.
It's always great to hear.
Shame on you. In like manner, those who study to learn something in order to sin are engaged in a sinful study, according to the saying of.
So learning how to break into like, I don't know. What am I trying to say?
I mean, I was thinking, and maybe this isn't what, or like just like looking into, like I don't know. I mean, stories of the ways you can sin, or
right.
I like a really like horrible classic examples. I remember there was this man, and this is just like crazy weird, but a man who like electrocuted his wife, and he had done a search for like they found he did a search like how does one electrocute their wife. I mean, it's like that obviously is seeking knowledge for something that's sinful.
There's
right?
all like the criminals that will copy each other by researching what the other person did, but you could also do things like how to break into a house, how to build a bomb, how to do all these things that are, or even how to like, I don't know if world leaders who are really terrible ever researched how to take over the world to be terrible.
I think Napoleon did that search on Google.
Learning to pick locks. That's what Adrian's saying. See, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like Googling how does one like hotwire a car.
I think that's Well, there was a young lady recently. I think I may have talked to you about this, Sissel, who teenage girl got into her car,
Oh, yes.
got it up to 100 miles per hour, drove into a wall, and killed her boyfriend and his friend. But yeah, I think one of the things that convicted her is that I think she had done some research about how to do this. You know,
wow.
So anyways,
See,
these are all extreme examples.
I'm kind of one of those silly people who just kind of is curious how you hotwire a car, because I always think of, what if I'm being pursued and I have to jump in a car? I think very action movie like.
Yeah.
So someone's going to one day be like, Cecil, you have a lot of convicting things in your Google search.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think that there are some of these are circumstantial. Like, for example, if somebody, like the O.J. Simpson trial that I used the example of, the attorneys representing O.J. Simpson and the prosecuting attorneys have to learn all this stuff, right? They have to see the pictures. They have to do the digging. They have to
into the evidence.
They have to. So for them, it wouldn't be curiosity. Okay, this is their job,
right?
This morning on Catholic Drive Time, Adrian was talking about this group called Ghost. And they're like a demonic group, and
fun.
They're having some event in the Woodlands this weekend, and Adrian was talking about people going out and praying the rosary, and he was going to go out there and all that. Mm-hmm. And I think Adrian said that he had gone on a Wikipedia page and done a little bit of research on this band, a demonic band. So him doing it as a host of a radio program would not be curiosity. Okay. Now, he didn't say, go everybody and you research them. But if somebody listening to that show were to say, I'm going to go check out some YouTube videos of Ghost, that could be curiosity, So I think it's very, it's person to person. I think about the people in like CPS who have to do the research, or like that movie Sound of Freedom, where they would have had to do some research on human trafficking, and I don't envy them having to do that, but that would not have been curiosity, because that's all for making a movie, assuming the movie was for a good purpose, right?
Right.
All right, so I beat that one to death. Any other comments? Now, number 3 is one of y'all got number 3. Which one?
I think it was relating to curiosity.
So this one is interesting, especially the example he uses. He says, when a man is withdrawn by a less profitable study from a study that is an obligation incumbent on him. And then he quotes Jerome saying, we see priests forsaking the Gospels and the prophets, reading stage plays and singing the love songs of pastoral idols.
Oh, okay. I definitely am guilty of this one frequently.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could be reading this one book, or I'm like, but on second thought, I want to research this really random thing I don't need to be,
Yeah.
Or not bad.
Or it could be like when we're at work.
Oh, yeah.
And then let's say our job is to do X, Y, and Z, and we're off on YouTube, or we're off, that would be.
Dave and I are extremely ADHD. I will just get a thought in my mind and be like, I wonder what that type of bird is. And like, I'll just be like, Google.
Yeah, I know. So that's, again, a lot of these things, it's a spectrum. Like, is that curiosity? Is that a sin? Is that, I wonder if any priest, I'd love to ask a priest, has anybody ever come into the confessional and said, I want to confess the sin of curiosity? Because nobody talks about this, other than, we do, of course. Right. But then here, this example of a priest. Okay, it says, forsaking the Gospels and the prophets, reading stage plays. It doesn't mean that a priest can't read a stage play. It doesn't mean a priest can't read love songs of pastoral idols, whatever that means. I think what it means is that he's neglecting his primary duty in doing this. You see what I'm saying?
It kind of sounds, this number 3 here, it sounds a lot like simply getting distracted, and it's a common thing, which is why I think you're right. We all deal with this at some point or another, because we're all distracted by something.
And I think of this, if it's a sin or not, it kind of depends on when you're being distracted and if you're allowing it. Like,
that's true.
If you're in a free time when you are, have done what your duties are for that moment, and you're just maybe sitting at your house relaxing, it could probably be more fruitful to do other things. But
and if we're at work and we take a lunch break and we want to do a research about flowers or whatever, those searches about flowers. So anyways, that one is Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, and again, I think most of us can relate to these. All right, so number 4 is the one that William got. You talked about like soothsayers and augurs. And, I saw something, a sign, and you've probably seen these signs where it's like, I saw a sign the other day and it said psychic $10.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And, it's tempting because I think a lot of people, they just want to know that somebody may have some secret knowledge. And
then they'll know what direction they need to go in life.
Right, exactly. So they're going to somebody because they have some kind of knowledge, or they think they do, right?
Right.
$10, that's pretty cheap.
And I was going to say $10. That's
Discount psychic, right? Yeah. But look how Aquinas words this, because he doesn't talk about soothsayers or psychics. Look who he says, when a man studies to learn of one by whom it is unlawful to be taught, as in the case of those who seek to know the future through the demons. Ooh. Okay, the demons. This is superstitious curiosity, of which Augustine says, maybe the philosophers were debarred from the faith by their sinful curiosity and seeking knowledge from the demons. And so I think he would kind of lump all these together, that the psychics and the soothsayers and the tarot card readers, I mean, that does have a demonic origin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never really been that drawn to anything like that, tarot cards and that. But I think it's a classic example of curiosity.
Yeah.
People want to know what is my future? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And instead of doing the hard work and the prayer and intercession of the saints, they go to somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that one. And let's see. Okay, this one I find. Okay, this one I find really interesting.
We're number 5 now.
Number 5. Okay, when a man desires to know the truth about creatures without referring his knowledge to its due end, namely the knowledge of God. Hence, Augustine says that in studying creatures, we must not be moved by empty and perishable curiosity, but we should ever mount towards immortal and abiding things.
By creatures?
So if you're a biology teacher at a public high school, I'm just using an example here, and you're teaching the kids about biology and science, and first of all, you're probably not allowed to connect it to God in a public school. But I think what he's saying here is if you're teaching about the natural world and you're not connecting it to God.
Okay.
I remember one time I really kind of upset Paula because it was a long time ago. I went into a museum of natural science, and it was in Fort Worth, kind of like a Perot museum, right?
Yeah.
And going around and looking at all these exhibits and dinosaur bones and this and that and all that kind of stuff. And it just all of a sudden hit me. It's like nothing about this is connecting any of this to God.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's all these facts about dinosaurs and planets and, whatever, the rotation of Venus and, but I think what he's saying, and I think this is a high bar that very, very few people other than like theology teachers are doing. And I think that some of the Catholic schools are trying to do this now where, like each discipline is incorporating God,
Right.
But I don't know. I find it interesting, if you're teaching science at a Catholic school and you're not talking about God in your science class,
There's the problem.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I don't ever remember, in each of my classes, you went to theology class to learn about God,
right?
But the other classes
doesn't connect there.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I think this is one that should be every principal of every Catholic school should read this and say, and I think a lot of them are doing that these days.
Oh yeah.
Just don't make theology just one class. Theology should really encompass every class, right? So, okay. Any comments on that one, or anybody out there?
No one's added a comment on social media. Although I do feel like when I was younger, after we became Christian, I remember I would go around, and anytime there wasn't some God connected to something when I knew it should be, have a lot of fun being very obnoxious about it. Like I had teddy bear that I got from Build-A-Bear, and it had a little voice box in it that sang a happy birthday song. I got it for my birthday, and the song went, happy birthday, we're celebrating the day that the world gave us you. And I would say so loudly and obnoxiously, the world God gave us. I was like, you can't take God out of this.
Yeah. Imagine, I don't know, have either of y'all been to like Niagara Falls or the Grand Canyon?
When I was like 3.
I have
Niagara
not.
Falls.
I've been to the Grand Canyon, though.
I don't know. I think I probably told you my story about Niagara Falls. I had a really quick visit because I was in Buffalo doing a pledge drive, and I was on the air, and then I had like a 3 or 4 hour break, and then I was back on the air. And Niagara Falls, I think it was like an hour away or something from Buffalo. So I drove up there. And it was like a 20-minute parking lot before you had to pay. And I jumped out of my car and I went over to Niagara Falls. It's amazing. I mean, do you remember it?
Not really. No.
Yeah.
I remember being really scared of the whole thing.
It's loud.
Yeah, it's
It's
loud
so
and-
powerful.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so I was just like, it's kind of like, I think it was like one of the vacation movies where they went to the Grand Canyon and they're like, okay, let's leave.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it went.
Right.
But my point is that, how many people actually see something like that and say, praise God, I've kind of trained myself to do that. Or when you go to a zoo and all these amazing creatures, I've always thought you ought to have signs at the zoo saying, don't forget to connect all these creatures to their to their creator.
Yeah. Something appropriate, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, they don't just, fall out of trees. I mean, these things were created.
Right.
But again, I think for the large part that's been lost.
Yeah.
In our culture today. So, okay. So that is number 5, and we have 3 to go. And the next one, Sissel got, but I don't remember exactly what you.
Is this the one about knowing too much to be like God?
Yeah,
Is that one?
Yeah. So when a man studies to know the truth above the capacity of his own intelligence, since by so doing men easily fall into error, wherefore it is written, seek not the things that are too high for thee, and search not into things above thy ability, and in many of his works be not curious. So I think that would probably qualify for trying not to be God.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, basically.
Yeah. And I think it's also could be like you're just trying to learn things, really deep stuff. And I've often thought myself is like, well, why are you so like interested in philosophy? And maybe there are some people that it just isn't their thing. I mean, they're not maybe cut out for it, or to learn engineering, or I don't know, just trying to learn something that is you're not suited for.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of the things that popped into my mind. So, okay, so that I want to get to this Augustine quote. I hope I have it in here somewhere. I think I do. Okay, so the next one. Okay, it says now he's talking about the vice of curiosity about sensitive knowledge. He makes a difference between intellective knowledge and sensitive knowledge. And he says the knowledge of sensible things is directed to 2 things. For the first place, both in man and in other animals, it is directed to the upkeep of the body, because by knowledge of this kind, man and other animals avoid what is harmful to them and seek those things that are necessary for the body's sustenance. So I take that to mean that if you look into the things that you need to sustain your body, people do research on, vitamins or food or nutrition or health or, that kind of thing, then that's not a bad thing, right? Okay, so then, okay, now let go to this next one, okay? He says, in the second place, it's directed in a manner special to man, the intellect of knowledge. Okay, now, this is the quote from Augustine that I want y'all to see, number 7. It says, when the sensitive knowledge is not directed to something useful, but turns man away from some useful consideration. Augustine said in his Confessions, I go no more to see a dog coursing a hare in the circus, but in the open country, if I happen to be passing, that coursing haply will distract me from some weighty thought and draw me after it. And unless thou, having made me see my weakness, did speedily admonish me, I become foolishly dull. Okay, did you get that?
No.
So
I read.
Someone's gotta say it.
Started reading the confessions like 3 years ago. I didn't understand any of it. I'll have to read it again now that I'm older.
Okay, so
yeah.
well, first of all, I mean, a dog coursing a hare in a circus. Okay, I had to look up what it means to course a hare. A hare is a rabbit. Okay,
Right,
you know
right.
that. So you got a dog chasing a rabbit. And they're doing so by sight and smell. And I guess back then in the 5th century when Augustine lived, that's what they did at circuses. And they had dogs chasing, rabbits around, and people were hooting and hollering and thought that was really cool and fun and all that.
Yeah.
So I think what he's saying is that, he stopped going to circuses because for some reason he just thought that was kind of silly, to be somewhere watching a dog chase a rabbit around, right?
Yeah.
But then he goes on to say, but if I'm out in the open country and I see a dog chasing a hare and I'm contemplating something else, I don't want to be distracted by it. And then he goes so far as to say that God will admonish him and he becomes foolishly dull. And that's what I'm thinking, like, really? I mean, so you're contemplating something kind of deep and you see on the corner of your eye a dog chasing a rabbit, and you look over at it, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it seems like Augustine saying, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done that. I had to focus on, my deep, philosophical thought. And I'm like, really? I mean, that's there for a purpose. Or you see a bird and you see why can you not just notice something?
I don't know. Yeah.
To me, that seems a bit scrupulous.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
I think so. Yeah.
But then again, if you're St. Augustine and for the next, 2,000 years of Christianity, the whole world is going to be relying on your brilliance, maybe that dog and hare should not distract you. You
Right,
know,
right.
Like if you're writing a book, not that would ever happen, but I mean, and you're being distracted by the birds and things going around you. Maybe that's not the time you need to be distracted, right?
True. This feels slightly personal, but like,
Not that, yeah.
yeah, no. When you have a particular job that, especially if it's a calling from God to be focused on, like if you're in seminary, if you're raising your kids, don't be distracted by other things that aren't as important.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's do the last one here and then see if anybody has any further comments. And this one, this is kind of what we've already covered, but he's doing this with sensitive knowledge. When the knowledge of sensible things is directed to something harmful, as looking on a woman is directed to lust, even so the busy inquiry into other people's actions is directed to detraction. Then he says, on the other hand, if one be ordinately intent on the knowledge of sensible things by reason of the necessity of sustaining nature, or for the sake of the study of intelligible truth, this studiousness about the knowledge of sensible things is virtuous. Okay, so he's saying sometimes we do need to do research on certain things because it's for the upkeep of the body. But, Adrian and I were talking about that, and Adrian and I don't agree entirely on this, but just there's this famous, I guess, scenario, I guess it actually did happen, where an attractive woman is walking at the Vatican, and there's two bishops, and one of them looked away, and one of them looked at her with love, because one of them knew that he didn't have the self-control to not let his mind go bad places, and the other one did have self-control. And I don't know if Adrian is still watching or not, but I think Adrian was more of the opinion that, I think it was more of like maybe a provocatively dressed woman, that everybody should turn away, every guy should turn away, because it's always going to be a temptation to sin. Whereas I think this story was saying that one bishop felt like he had custody of his eyes and he could look at her with love and not be drawn into sin. And so it's kind of like conditional. I think Adrian was saying,
I think God can use that one bishop to because maybe that woman hadn't been looked at properly, not in a sensual way, in a long time. And so
if both of them look away, then she's like,
but then you're like, but then she's seeing two Catholic bishops who won't look at her.
Yeah.
And again, I get the temptation that you have to know, just like everyone, some people are certain situations, if you're tempted by certain things, you should not be in that situation. Like, so the one bishop should have turned away.
Yeah, and if they both were trying to overcome pornography, maybe they both need to look away.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of how she
But,
reacts
in
to
that
it.
moment, like, hey. God can use them.
Yeah.
right.
So, anyways, so that's that. Do you all find that kind of interesting?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's very
That's
Yeah, but and it's from a practical standpoint, what do you do with this? I think that maybe we can just be more aware of times when we are being overly curious, maybe when we're not using our time wisely. Because you think about it, most of us, myself included, don't pray enough, and most of us are spending a lot of time.
We make the time for the things that we want, and we
Yeah.
don't always desire prayer the way we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So, all right, well, we have a little bit of time. I don't know if there's any comments, anybody out there. If you're watching this on a recorded basis, you can leave comments, and perhaps we'll see them in the future.
I try to check them usually. So.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I do.
Even
I
after
respond
the
to.
fact.
I respond to messages sometimes.
Okay. So let's see. It's who is Interregnum MCM?
I could be completely wrong, but I want to say that's Damon.
Oh, Damon. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I try not to keep up with usernames, but I don't always.
And then Adrian liked your comment about picking locks to steal.
Yep. That's what I think of when you talk about using my knowledge for bad things.
Yeah, right.
To do bad things.
Doing,
I'm like, pick a lock or figure out how to open the cookie jar without everyone knowing that I
yeah, I
opened
would
the
think
cookie
like
jar.
if you do some like bizarre search about something that you're just, I don't want to. Well, I've done not searches like horrible things, but just out of more curiosity, probably sinful curiosity. But then you think like, oh my gosh, like
Now that's on my the
it's on
government
my
knows.
permanent record that
The government knows. Like, for instance, I think one time when I was younger, this was a book. This was not going to be, a digital print, but I had a book that was like, I think it was a Nancy Drew How to Be a Detective book. It was some really goofy thing, but it was like, how do you open an envelope and reseal it without anyone knowing, that kind of thing,
yeah.
And I remember like, I want to try this. And I did. I'm like, with my parents' permission, they knew I was doing it. It wasn't like I was opening something I shouldn't, but I was like, wow, this is how you do it. That's so cool. I mean, I haven't used that information, but I do have that, you have that knowledge.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so I've got easy but challenging trivia for you today. It's nothing. But the reason I picked trivia, kind of like mindless trivia questions, is because.
We have no minds.
Well, it's a couple weeks ago it was too deep, and this one will be more fun. It'll be kind of rapid fire. There's these are ones you probably will get. Just see who gets it quicker, and also so that we don't look overly scrupulous. Like people can never do trivia because of course we do trivia.
Oh, please.
During share-a-thons.
I have the most random trivia in my brain.
Okay, so are y'all ready to do this?
I am ready.
All right. So, and I don't know why I like a good match, and I try to find things that, y'all have a little difference in age and all that, but that, hopefully you guys would know. It's just a matter of who gets it quicker. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Is there a theme?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's trivia.
Okay.
It's random. No, it's random. It's not,
So we have a 50-50 chance of knowing it.
And so we'll ask at the end of this, in order to tie into the theme of the show, are we better off having known these random fascinating facts, or was it just a total waste of 5-10 minutes of our time? Okay,
All right.
so that would be the question.
Let's
okay,
waste
so
time together. Let's go.
Here we go. Okay, so Cecil and William. Okay, what is celebrated on February 2nd and is also an
Candle Mass.
Presentation.
the name of okay. Remember, these are not necessarily religious.
Groundhog Day.
There
I
you
like
go.
how we both went so Catholic.
I know. It's good. So what do you think? You're like at a Catholic radio station
Oh
or
my
something? The only vowel on a standard keyboard that is not on the top line of letters.
A. I have a
Okay.
keyboard in front of me, to be fair. Well, so did you. So did you. We both had the...
True.
Yeah. How many stars are on the European Union flag?
Oh, gosh.
European Union.
Oh, gosh. I don't
Okay,
know.
it's 12.
Okay.
Okay.
I have no
some of
idea.
these may be kind of tough.
I have
Okay.
no idea. I couldn't even picture what that looks like.
Globe
Me neither.
and Jerusalem are types of what?
I'm sorry. Say again?
Yeah, what was the
Globe and Jerusalem are types of what? Again,
Places.
It's artichokes.
Oh.
Yeah, these are more tough, aren't they?
first? Okay.
That's...
Yeah.
Now, some of them are tougher than others. Okay,
Okay,
that's all
okay,
right.
that's
What's
okay.
the most popular drink in the world that is not alcohol?
Lemonade. Water. Coke.
Like, I was going to say Coke as well, but is it
How many? Iced tea.
no?
Tea. Coffee.
Coffee.
Oh my God.
There you
Why did
go.
it take us so long to get to
Okay.
coffee?
Oh wow.
Come on, William. You got. Okay. What does HTTP stand for?
For heaven's sake. I don't remember
I'm
what
not
it
gonna
stands
know
for.
this.
Now the
Hit
hypertext transfer protocol.
Taco person. Okay, it's not hit the taco
Oh, so
person.
HTTP. You didn't know that, James? Did you
I
know
did
that?
know it, but I couldn't remember it. I thought it was hit the taco person.
Okay, hit the taco person. Hit the taco person. Okay, did you just make that up right now?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I should give you another point for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Which planet is the hottest in the solar system?
Jupiter.
Whoa, you said that with a lot of confidence, but it's not true.
I think it's.
That was the
it-
first one that came to my mind.
Isn't it? It's Mars.
No,
It's not
Venus.
Mars. Oh, it's Venus.
You would think it'd be,
Oh,
you'd think it'd be Mercury because it's the
And
closest,
you know,
right?
I
Right.
knew it.
Why didn't y'all
because
guess the closest? It'd be wrong, but why didn't you
I
guess
think
the
I
closest?
accidentally mixed up Mars and Mercury in my head.
Okay, I'm
because
not
they both
giving
begin
you a
with M.
point. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. I don't get
Okay, how many Lord of the Rings films are there?
3.
I'm going to give it to William.
Come
on. Which animal can be seen on the Porsche logo?
The Porsche horse.
Okay, good. Yes. Okay. What does BMW stand for?
Something.
Should know this.
Something.
I knew this one.
I know this one. I just can't think of it. This is terrible. My
Bavarian
friend.
Motor Works.
Yep, my friend drives a BMW.
Okay.
I really should know this.
Yeah, you should. Which country invented tea?
England. No, I'm joking. India.
Good
No.
guess, but wrong.
Nepal.
Okay, China.
China. I was
okay.
about to say China. You
Which
said it.
American state is the largest by area?
California.
Alaska.
Alaska.
Hey, we said it at the same time.
But
I
you know,
said
I'm
it at the
always
same-
going to give William
Always
the
gonna give it to
edge.
William.
Come on. Okay, it's 4-2. Okay,
Oh,
we got a little game going here.
All right.
4-2.
Okay, what's the name of the world's longest river?
Nile.
Okay, yes. The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes was written by which writer?
Arthur Conan Doyle. Arthur Conan Doyle. You know what I was trying to say.
Did
I
you
just
know
said it too
that?
fast.
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
all right. What is the slogan for the Apple company?
No. What is this? Apple.
Okay, you're not going to get it.
No.
Think different.
Think different.
How many stripes does the Adidas logo have?
3?
Yes.
Does
very
it really?
good,
Oh,
yes.
that was a guess.
According to Greek mythology, who was the
no.
first woman on Earth?
The first woman on Earth.
Venus.
Yeah.
Aphrodite. Venus. I always get the gods confused. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
was gonna say
Pandora.
Venus.
Oh,
okay.
Pandora.
Remember Pandora's
There's
box?
Yeah.
Okay. Fissures, vents, and plugs are all associated with which geological feature? Fissures, vents, and plugs.
Say the whole question again.
Fissures, vents, and plugs are all associated with which geological feature?
Electricity. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know.
Volcanoes.
Oh,
Electricity isn't a geological feature. Okay, we got about 6 more. Okay, and it's 7-2.
the
So you're
torment.
almost mathematically eliminated, but not
Yeah.
quite yet. You got to get them all.
Oh wow.
It's okay. At least you didn't answer electricity.
Yeah, I should take a point away from
No,
that.
no.
How many eyes does a bee have?
1,000, isn't it? Like 100. A lot.
I'm gonna say
10, too.
I'll go with 10,000. Just say, I don't know. I don't know.
5.
Oh, I was close as I said 10.
No dice.
Oh, come on.
In the United Kingdom, what is the day after Christmas called?
Boxing Day.
Boxing Day. Yes. Okay. What is the tallest breed of dog in the world?
Great Dane?
Great Dane, yes. Okay.
just a guess,
Boy,
honestly.
she's a trivia master. See,
I guess
because
so.
you know why? Because she's sinfully curious. Okay. All we're
backfiring on
proving
me.
here is that.
Me winning is like.
Okay, 3 more. How many ribs are in a human body?
Wait, hold up. I'm going to count.
10?
Count.
8.
10?
Okay, 20,
Six.
24. William's closer.
Wait.
Okay, and that was a 5-point question.
I am
No, I'm
really
kidding.
bad with biology, apparently.
Okay, 24. What is the hardest rock in the world?
Granite?
Obsidian.
No, diamond.
Oh, right. Duh.
Come on
Okay.
now. Okay.
I didn't know if obsidian counted as
last
rock.
question. Okay,
Okay.
it's worth 15. No, I'm kidding.
Don't you dare.
Who invented scissors?
Edward Scissorhand.
No.
Someone who really needed to cut something.
Who invented it's
Thomas
It's a
Edison.
person, a real Renaissance man,
Oh.
famous artist.
Da Vinci.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That makes sense. He invented a lot of random stuff, I
All
swear.
right. Well, we won't say the final score, but we know that Sissel is more curious and Williams more studious.
Wow.
Okay, so
Fair.
how about
That's
that for
not the-
winning a contest?
It's not the first time someone said that to me.
Okay, so there we
That
go.
was literally my entire educational upbringing. Sissel's too curious, but not
all right.
studious.
So the question is, and we can all weigh in as we close out the program today. We can leave a little bit early today. Is that
Class
are
lets out
you
early.
better having known all that, or was that a total waste of time? Was that curiosity or was that studiousness?
The show.
Not the show. No, the trivia. For Pete's
the
sake.
trivia.
I mean, come on. I would argue the show was studiousness.
Yeah,
okay?
I'd agree.
Okay.
I would say it depends. Some of the trivia I think could be handy and useful.
Yeah.
It's
in
like
your life.
how, like, and again, I'm just kind of playing devil. Like knowing that Leonardo da Vinci invented scissors from a practical standpoint, other than being on a trivia show, which is very common, or a
Right.
trivia game. Well, why do we need to know
But
that?
why
right?
do we learn about Leonardo da Vinci at all then?
Yeah, why do we have to know that he painted?
Why do
the
we have
Mona
to know
Lisa?
anything? Why do we have to know Thomas Edison invented the light bulb?
Exactly.
But
I think
that's
these
part
are
of-
legitimate questions.
That's part
to
of our
have.
education, though. That's like everyone learns
Yeah,
those
but
things.
imagine if there was electricity and some student said, who invented that?
Exactly.
And somebody's like, don't
like,
ask that question. Okay, that's just
We
curiosity.
don't have curiosity here.
It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Whereas Thomas Edison, okay, like for example, somebody could say they're a really good artist, and they find out that Da Vinci also invented scissors, and they can say, wow, I don't have to be focused on one thing. I can actually do diverse things, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that's the very definition of a Renaissance person, is that they're talented in a lot of different areas.
Can confirm I'm a very curious person. I get distracted all the time, and I'm like, what about this?
Now, do you think that it ever, and not that you're in like confession, but would ever like be something that you like? I think I need to go confess that. Now, after
Oh, sure. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there have been times in my life, for sure.
yeah.
Well, yeah, you can go down. You can get too far on
I'll give you
things.
a classic example of curiosity in my life. I talked about Niagara Falls. Okay, when I was in Niagara Falls, I found out that it's a lot of people have like committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
At Niagara Falls, they think it's for whatever reason, their twisted mind, they think it's a good way to go out, right? So they actually jump in and then they go and they die. Well, I was curious about that, so I went online and people committing suicide at Niagara Falls, right? And like videos were popping up of
Yeah.
actually people.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and I'll never be able to get that out of my head. I mean, to this day, I have that image of people's faces, going down Niagara Falls, and that was like absolute curiosity. I never confessed it. Maybe I should, because I think that was sinful. I mean, I don't need to see that, right?
Right.
That's like absolutely gratuitous, the waste of my time. It didn't make me a better person. But then if somebody was tasked up in New York of saying, we need you to research, why people are committing suicide in Niagara Falls. Well, then that person's job becomes to research it. They
Right.
go
To look up
online.
data and
Yeah,
stuff
they
like
look
that,
up
yeah.
data. They look
Absolutely.
at how people are doing it, what
Right.
people are doing it, and so all of a sudden it becomes their job. And
Or if
they,
you're a historian and you're like having to, keep records of what has happened.
I remember when I was in college, there was this movie called Faces of Death. And it's like just like video of people dying, being shot, and I remember like being with like in my dorm and like watching this, but it's a total curiosity, and it's just bad, you just don't need to see that. So,
Right.
anyways, I think it's a common problem that
Yeah.
a lot of people have, myself
Today,
included.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Well, especially with the internet, I feel like without
Right.
the internet, we'd be significantly less curious.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
So because you'd
without a
actually,
doubt.
you'd have to go to the library and pull out books.
Yeah,
And actually
you have to work harder to be
Work
curious.
really hard,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And the information, the people have to work even harder to get the information out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
should a priest in his Sunday homily maybe talk about curiosity sometime?
yeah,
I think a lot of
they
people
all should
feel,
at some
feel,
point,
feel,
yeah.
feel very convicted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I know when, like Adrian this morning, I used the example of Trivial Pursuit, which was a very popular game back in the 80s. And after my segment, Adrian was going straight into Fear and Trembling, which is a game about trivia. So I think he was like, oh, he said, are you implying that the
trivia is bad.
Yeah, the trivia is bad, and so anyways, that was kind of awkward. Which I don't think there's anything wrong with their game. I think it's kind of fun, and you learn something, and that kind of thing. All right, well, I thought that was kind of fun, and we appreciate y'all watching, and whether live or after the fact. And thank you, my two studio cohorts, and James as well, for being part of the program. I guess that's going to wrap it up. We are, next month, I'm not going to be here on a particular weekend, and I've been asked whether we're going to run a repeat or whether the other hosts want to do Back to the Father the weekend. I think it's like May 20.
May?
Not May. No, September. It's actually this month.
I was going to say it's this month.
Because today's
Like the 23rd or so. But anyways,
22nd.
We got some time but prayerfully consider whether y'all want to do a show.
I think William and I could totally do a takeover. We know what we're doing.
Yeah, I can even give you suggestions for topics. And
Okay.
all that, okay, so we got to have not so many breaks in the program.
I know, because we have Share-a-thon in 2 weeks, too.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. God bless you, and have a great Labor Day weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.